Welcome to Arty Thursday. I'm Darleen, and I'm so excited that my guest is Sandra Cavanaugh. Oh, sorry, Sandra Cavanaugh. You can say that. And people watching that have been following me know I don't edit videos because I don't care. This is me. Now,
Okay.
yeah, Sandra is an expert in the fields of creativity, imagination, and communication, as well as a transformational coach and author of an international bestseller, which I'll get her to talk about, Spontaneous Brilliance. Unleash the power of your unique creative genius. Yes. Sandra is also a multi-passionate creative artist, an educator, an entrepreneur, an award-winning 35-year veteran of the entertainment industry as a director, playwright, screenwriter, producer, artistic director, actor, and singer-songwriter. Now, her mission is to create a world where everyone's unique creative genius is shared and respected regardless of their age, education, or perceived abilities. Now, Sandra is talking my talk. I absolutely love everything about that because for anyone that's watched my videos, they know that I say creativity is whatever brings you joy. That is what creativity is. And people think that, oh, you talk about artists, well, it's traditional, painting, drawing. Well, that's part of it. But I would love you to say your definition of creativity.
Well, I have to say when I heard you say several times on your different podcasts that creativity is whatever brings you joy, that's what kind of brought me to you. I was like, "Oh
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
she's my peeps." I get so when I was writing Spontaneous Brilliance, when I was writing the book, I really it came out of um I was, as a creativity
Mm,
specialist, which is what I do as a
mm,
transformation coach, I was watching a bunch of TED Talks
mm,
on creativity and the creative process. And I was sitting in my house one day, and my oldest daughter, was editing a film. We shared an office at the
mm.
time. It was over across, um, and uh, I was yelling at the screen. I was, like, arguing with these people, and she finally went, "Mom, please stop yelling. I know what you think, and they can't hear you. Would you write a book, please?" Like, "Oh, okay." So, that is where the book Spontaneous Brilliance came from,
Mm,
and when I started writing it, I thought, "Okay, I'll find the definition of creativity that works for me."
mm,
And I literally could not find one, and I write about the journey in the
mm,
book. Like, I even went to Ken Robinson, was my hero, education and creativity,
mm,
and he actually was part of a commission that was commissioned by the British government to explore creativity and define creativity, and their definition just blew my mind at how limiting and confining it was. And so I wrote my own. So this is mine, and I have to read it because otherwise I'll leave a word or something out. But my definition became creativity is the conscious and deliberate evolutionary process of developing a thought or thoughts in the imagination and then taking action on those thoughts in order to manifest change, alter perception, enhance understanding, or to bring into being something as yet unrealized in our awareness or our physical reality.
oh, love it. I absolutely
Yes.
love that. Like, that is beautiful. Now, that is really beautiful.
And to me, we are all creating
Mhm,
all the time. And it becomes for me when I'm working with my students and teaching an acting
mm,
class or whatever it is, I'm always trying to help people see that it's about becoming a conscious creator
mhm,
because our lives are our greatest creation
mm,
and we are creating our lives.
mhm,
And the imagination to me is the connection to the soul.
mhm,
You know, that's that communication train for our greatest relationship, which is our relationship between us and us,
Mhm.
um, and uh, so I find it really disheartening sometimes, especially when I work with kids with special needs,
Mm.
that if they don't fit into a certain model,
Mhm.
or they don't fit into, or they don't have any interest in the arts. So when people would say to me, I'd be teaching college and people would say, I'm not very creative, or I don't have a very good imagination,
Mm.
or I don't have an active imagination. I'm like, yeah, you do. You're breathing. You have one. I
Mm.
promise. And what we have told ourselves over the years, that there are creative people and non-creative
Mhm.
people, there are artistic people and non-artistic people, there are geniuses and non-geniuses, and
Mhm.
I just don't believe any of that. There are people that have an interest in the arts
Mm.
more than others. There are people that have interest in plumbing more than other people, but plumbers are very creative
Mm.
if they're good at it.
Mhm.
One of the things that I write about in Spontaneous Brilliance is that, you know, the guy who invented those arms that pick up the trash can,
Mm. Yeah.
that's extremely creative. And whoever they are, they saved a lot of people from,
Mhm.
like, a rotor cuff
Mhm.
injury. They
Exactly.
like their creativity is profound,
Mhm.
but went towards something that we came very quickly to take for granted.
Mm.
And so, for me, creativity is about being a conscious creator of those things that we personally can feel we were
Mm.
meant to bring onto the planet. I think each and every human being has a unique creative
Mm.
genius. Thus, again, the subtitle of the book is
Mhm.
Unleash the Power of Your Unique Creative Genius,
Yeah.
because I just believe that everybody's a genius and they're all brilliant in their way, in some
Mm.
way. Um, and I say that the book is based on, my two favorite metaphors, and I'm sure we'll get to my first favorite metaphor, but my second favorite metaphor is the first one I bring up in the book, which is Einstein's quote that
Mm.
everyone is brilliant, but if you ask a fish to climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life thinking it's stupid.
Mhm.
And that's where we get people that think that they're not creative, or
Mm.
think that they're not artistic, or think
Mhm.
that they're not brilliant in some
Mm.
way, in their way, is because we think brilliance only comes in this
Mm.
kind of package. And, imagine how the world would change, how education would change, how our families would change, how every interaction would change if every person we ever saw, spoke to, interacted with in every way, if we knew when we approached them that they were, in fact, a unique creative genius with a passion and a purpose that they came here to
Mm.
share. And if we can't tell that they're a genius, that's on
Mm.
us.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I got tears in my eyes because it's just, that is everything you're saying. It's me. Like, I did not know I was actually an artist because during high school I did traditional art, painting and drawing. And of course, it wasn't me. Like, I'm free, I'm flowing, I'm that kind of person. That felt constrictive. Like, now I've learned more and I want to, start having lessons. But when I found my art form, acrylic pouring, I was in heaven. I'm like, oh my goodness, I am actually an artist. I found my art. And this is why I wanted to start this podcast, because I want to get more out about art, creativity, everything. Because as you said, like, everyone is creative. I've got a friend who, she's actually helping business women with, their business. She actually did a folder structure. Now, I just went, oh my goodness, it makes so much sense. It is the client journey. And I just looked at that and I went, that is creative because now I can find things.
Yeah. And her genius
Mm.
just can't, and it coincides with
Mm.
yours, and it sparks your imagination. And
Mm.
do. And we all are meant to be in a cooperative
Mm-hmm.
society. We're here to cooperate. We're not here to compete.
Mm-hmm.
Nature is cooperative,
Mm.
and we set it up as something judgmental
Mhm.
and different. To
Mm.
go back to Einstein, there isn't a fish on the planet that looks at, the monkey and goes, "Dang it, wish I could climb a tree."
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't happen. And they don't look at the other fish and go,
Mm.
"He swims faster than me."
Yeah.
They're That's not what any other animal
Mm.
on this planet is doing. But we human beings, we get so convinced that we
Mhm.
are so smart in a scary way that
Mm.
we like look at each other and go, the creator really blew it on that one.
Mhm.
This person was gifted.
Mm.
This person is not gifted. Well, I'm just here to say
Mm.
everybody's gifted.
Mhm.
We just are assuming that the gifts only look like a certain thing.
Yes, yeah, and that's why I love ignoring the critics. Like, you get critics of everything, and that's their job. And it's like, but that's your opinion. That's just your opinion. Like, everybody's going to look at something different. Like they'll look at a film and they'll love it. They might like it a bit or something. And all of this. And that's why I'm like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. I have had so many experiences with kids that weren't supposed to be able to do X, Y, or
Mhm.
Z. They were way out on the autism spectrum,
Mhm.
or they whoa, I don't know where that's coming from. I apologize. And I know that you don't edit videos. Where
That's all right.
there you go. There was a unique moment. Uh, but these kids, like I used to get residencies, and I would walk into a class and say, of a special needs class,
Mm.
and say, hey, I've got this residency. How about I come work with your kids? And inevitably, the instructor would be like, these kids don't talk to each other. They're not going to talk to you. They're not going to improvise with you. They haven't written 2 paragraphs in their entire school career. And this is not going to happen. And I'd be like, I'm
Mm.
going to playwriting. I'm going to teach them to improvise. And they'd be like, yeah, no, that's not happening. And I'd be like, can I try? We've
Yeah.
got already paid for. And they, okay, all right, give it a shot. And in 3 years, 2 of the students that were in that class actually went to the Kennedy Center, won the award for playwriting, a national award for playwriting. They all learned to improvise. They all learned the basics of what I teach, which is essentially, I said I was going to come back to my
Mm.
first, and as you said, I spent 35 years, 36 years now in professional theater and teaching acting and teaching improvisation. And I spent so many years where I would say to people, in acting as in life, this is true. In improv as in life, this is true. And then one day I finally heard myself and went, oh, maybe Shakespeare's line, all the world's a stage, isn't just a pretty piece of poetry. Maybe it's actually a roadmap to how we successfully behave on the great stage of life. And I started saying, okay, actually that is literally true, that everything that makes for a great performance on the great stage of life, or on the stage, makes for a great performance on the great stage of life. And so I teach people just in life. Life is a 24/7 improvisation. By definition, we're improvising every day. And so when I teach people that there are just 3 basic things you are doing in any improv, you are either making an offer, you're accepting an offer, or you are blocking an offer. That's it. Offering, accepting, blocking. That's it. So if that's all you can be doing in improv, that's all you can be doing in life. We are either making an offer of our own genius, our own thought, our own idea, our own activity, whatever that is, we are accepting an offer that comes to us from animal, vegetable, mineral, the universe, somebody else, our own brain, whatever. And by accepting, I mean acknowledging it, letting it be a part of the factual environment. Or we are blocking an offer. And so teaching people not to block, that becomes just a profound experience, because we have, people think, oh, they think they don't think well, or they don't imagine well. And one of the first things I do when I walk into a room full of CEOs, this is my favorite one, is I'll say, raise your hand if you've ever had to stop and think. And inevitably, everybody will raise their hand, because we all do. We all say, oh, wait a minute, I need to think about that. Hang on, I need to stop and think. And then I point out that, no, you didn't. We think faster than we can even perceive. We think at a possible 60,000 thoughts a day, maybe even as many as 200,000 thoughts a day. But 60,000 thoughts a day is a conventional wisdom around that. So let's take that down to a third and say, okay, 20,000 thoughts a day. We're having 20,000 thoughts a day. Isn't it possible that just one of those thoughts a day is brilliant? And what we didn't do is stop to think. So what did we do? We stopped to censor, we stopped to choose, we stopped to evaluate, we stopped to be critical in our own mind and judge that thought and judge how we thought other people were going to see that thought. And so we don't share it. We don't express it. We don't have any faith in it. And so part of my mission is to get us to have faith in each other while we're working on having faith in ourselves. If I know when I meet you, you're a unique creative genius. I just need to coexist with you and experience that genius and trust that it's there and allow it to be shared and encourage it to be shared. I don't need to judge it, because it's valid. Whatever you came here needing and wanting to do, that's your passion, that's your purpose. Let's get it going. It's not like the world needs less geniuses. We got some issues going on here on this planet. We could use a little creativity just flowing in from everywhere. But the fact that we are, judging our own thoughts and judging everybody else's level of contribution or whether or not they're a genius. I mean, our entire education system worldwide, systems are set up to do that, to test people into inactivity.
Yep.
And we test teachers into inactivity. I was in a creativity online big thing. I don't know. And I was being interviewed before I stepped onto this panel, and the woman who set up the creativity conference, she's a teacher. She said to me, I really appreciate, everything that you write and stuff and everything that you say. And I love the idea of spontaneous brilliance, but in the classroom with a bunch of fifth graders, I don't have time for the spontaneous brilliance of little Jimmy, who just needs to tell everybody else about dirt. If I'm trying to get everybody to write their English paper and learn how to structure an English paper, I don't have time for him to suddenly pop up out of his seat all the time and have these great ideas about dirt. And so, but you do have time to recognize that he's making an offer. And if rather than block that offer with sit down and shut
Yeah.
up, this is all we're
Mm.
going to do. If you accept that offer and you think about it as, okay, this isn't a contradiction to this moment. This is an added aspect of this moment. So if I allow that is supposed to be here, that child with that vision,
Mm.
I can say to that child, okay, here's the thing. I really honor that you are into dirt. And what I think is great is everybody here's got to write a paper about their favorite subject. So if your favorite subject is dirt, then what can you do to make a presentation about dirt? If you can't sit still long enough to write it, can you make a PowerPoint presentation? And then if you make a PowerPoint presentation, will you teach the whole class how to do that?
Mm.
Will you bring the dirt in? Tell us everything you know about dirt. We'll tape record it. We'll write it down in a paper. And then the whole class together can figure out how to put that into a paper. I mean, if you just keep taking the offers,
Mm.
and build on it, the whole class could help write his mega paper on dirt,
Mm.
right? We don't have to say no. It's like there's an improv game that Viola Spolin
Mm.
developed many, many decades ago. Yes, and to teach people to accept and
Mhm.
then,
Mm.
because the hardest things is if you say, I'm really hungry, and the other person goes, yeah. It's like, okay. They accepted it, but they didn't offer. So that's why the game is yes and, to
Mm.
remind us that the and is we have to contribute something to make this moment a better moment, right? And so teachers will go yes and accept the paper as it's handed to them, or say no, sit. This is what we're doing right now. So they're either blocking, or they're, just sort of offering right over. They only will accept those things that
Mm.
fit the agenda for the day because they're limited so much in their time and their parameters and what they can do. But the pain that we really cause ourselves and people around us by just not believing the simple thing that every single human being we see is a unique creative genius. And if every educator could walk into every room and know
Mhm.
that, and know that their job is to give the tools to those students to learn to express their unique creative genius, not to decide whether or not they have any, because they do.
Mm. I love what you've just said. Like all of that is just so incredible. And you've actually given me a huge insight. Like those three things that you said, what we accept, we block, and
Offer,
that's it. Yeah, like
accepting, and blocking.
I've just had like an insight. It's like, oh my goodness, of course. And so I did. Like with my art, I did actually block it. And being on video, like I blocked that for ages because I started with a hobby. And then, of course, you get told, look, you've got to take selfies and you've got to get on video. Well, I blocked that. I'm like, no, that's not me. I don't look good on camera. I don't take good selfies, none of that. So I continued to block that until I went one day, you know what? Stuff this. Absolutely and utterly stuff this. I'm just going to give it a go. And I did.
Yeah. And look, it's beautiful. It's amazing and it's wonderful. And like, when I heard you on one of your podcasts and I heard you talking about, just the creativity being to bring you joy. And I was like, wow, that's a simple way of saying it. That just gets right to the heart of the matter. And it gets right to the heart of the question of like, we're here to be happy. We're on this planet to be happy. So if we're frustrated, if
Mhm.
we're in fear, um, something's wrong with that moment. Somebody is not offering.
Mm.
Somebody's blocking. I say all the time, when in doubt, offer. If in doubt, you're probably blocking. because, you know, the old, what is it? Is it Teddy Roosevelt or someone like that that said that uh, it was a thing about failure. Oh, no, 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 no. This is Winston Churchill that said something about I'm going to butcher this, but the idea being that failure, that success is just being willing to experience failure and over and over and over and over and over. You know, if you fail, what's the story of the lady that created Spanx, that her father raised her to say, I heard her telling this story. She said that her father would ask the kids in the family every day, what did you fail at today? And if they said nothing, he'd say, then you're not trying hard enough. You're not stretching if you're not failing. And so she grew up thinking a good day was a day when you failed and you knew it, you know, because you pushed yourself out there. And I think that's just beautiful. You know, I'd get these students, adult students in colleges. Like I started teaching acting at a conservatory in New York. I started teaching acting at the National Shakespeare Conservatory. And so that was my experience with teaching for several years, was conservatory. And everybody tries, everybody just throws it out. There are no grades, you know, you're just getting through the work. And I started teaching at a university, and all of a sudden in acting classes and movement classes and improvisation classes, people are saying to me, how do I get an A? What's my grade? Do I know I've got an A? How do I get an A? And I'd say, well, you've got an A, just try every day. Yeah, but how do I know? You know, they didn't trust it. They didn't believe it. And I actually worked at a university where the chair of the department at that time listened to me just going, blah, you know, and I was like, I need to reconnect these adults back to playing. They need to relearn how to play. They've all forgotten how to play. They've forgotten how to just do it for the sake of doing it. It's all based on the grade. And so, bless his heart, he let me create a course called Imagination and Spontaneity. And so when people would take that course, and the spectrum of people, everything from nursing students to engineering students to physicists to of course I had theater and communication people in there, but most of the people were from somewhere else. And, you know, they'd know they had to do a liberal arts class, so they'd come over and take, you know, the spontaneity and imagination class. And nobody ever asked me how to get an A. I would say we're here to explore. We're here to play. We are here to play.
Yeah.
So if you say no to playing, that's a no-no. If you know, don't want you to block. But as long as you're offering, as long as you're trying, as long as you're exploring and experimenting, I guarantee you'll have some fun. I guarantee that you will grow. And I guarantee that we all will learn a whole lot about each other and about ourselves. And inevitably, the people that went through that became so much more confident, so much more able to share in whatever field they were in, because they suddenly learned that they noticed those spontaneous thoughts. They noticed that thought coming up and spoke it. You know, we would do a lot of Keith Johnstone wrote the book Improv, and God love him, what a brilliant man. And I had studied with a couple of his colleagues, Roddy Maud Roxby and Ken Campbell. I studied with them at the National Theatre of Great Britain. And so I was very into all these exercises. And so we would do a lot of Ken Campbell or Keith Johnstone imagination exercises. And one of them is called a verbal chase, where you just are questioning in this sort of radically, you know, you're just following the train of whatever the words are that come out of the person's mouth. So you're questioning them, and the answers and the questions become an improv, and you end up sort of telling a story and finding your way through this very, very quickly. Where I might say to you, to start it, I might say, there's someone behind you. Who is it? And would tell me, and I would say, "What's under his hat?" Now, in my offer, I've put a hat into there and the fact that something's under it. And so you can kill it by
Mm.
saying he doesn't have a hat, right? If you're blocking that. But if you go, there's an orangutan under there, and I say, "What's the orangutan's name?" And you say, "Charles." And I say, "Charles has something in his hand. What is it?" And you say, "A hammer." And I say, "He hits Fred on the head and it splits his head open. What's inside?" And you say, "Peanut butter and jelly." And we just go through so that we're not limiting the first, it's that connecting with the first thought that comes into the mind. And we don't always want to be, never censoring, but we get so good at censoring that we don't even notice that we're doing it. And that's where the creativity gets thwarted. That's where the offers get blocked before they ever get a chance to be recognized as existing. And it's us blocking our own offers, like you said,
Mm.
that becomes the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, I spent 30 years in the healthcare field. Now, that was control, even in uncontrolled situations, it was controlled. So just now I've had an insight that I wasn't, I was creative in my own way outside of it. I had to be, because being in the healthcare field, it was great, yet it was, this, this, and this, and this. And so that is what's, helped me eventually really open up and do loads of beautiful healing and everything, because I found creativity, which I just now realized that's what actually happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. The other aspect of that, sort of bringing the things that make for a great performance on the stage to the great stage of life, if you will, is looking at acting techniques and
Mhm.
acting truisms. And one of my favorite is find the love. That's what one of my favorite acting teachers that I had when I was a young actor starting in New York, Mario Soletti. He used to always, he would, you'd finish a scene in class, and Mario would come up very dapper, affected, he had the tweed jacket with the
Mm.
patches on the elbows, and mustachioed guy, and he would come up and he'd say, kids, she's good, yes? She's good, kids, yes? And everybody would, of course, go, sure. And then he'd say, now listen to me, kids. Listen to me, honeys. I'm going to save your lives. And then he'd say whatever his, wisdom was at that moment. But my favorite was, he said, I'm going to save your lives. You've got to find the love. Meaning that every person on the planet gets up in the morning for something. They get up because of something. There is something moving them forward, something that they love. And even when, one of the things that he was teaching us in the context of is, even when you are playing a character that seems really horrid, the Hannibal Lecter, you've got to find what Hannibal Lecter loves. And interestingly, my scene study teacher at the National was Anthony Hopkins. And that was several years before he played Hannibal Lecter. And then when I had a theater company, Tony became the honorary patron of my theater company. But in between those two things, he and I were hanging out one time, and he was on his way from, he was filming in Salt Lake, and he was going to go to Pennsylvania to film another movie after that one. And he was telling me this story about he was going to drive across country. And he said, I'm going to go do this film and I'm so excited about it. And that he already knew the character. He could just hear him. He could feel him. He knew what he was about. And he said, have you ever read Silence of the Lambs? And I said, no. And he goes, neither have I, but the movie, and he was just really lit up about it. And when he started telling me that this guy was like a serial killer and a cannibal, and, I was like, I love you, but I'm never going to watch that movie. I'm just sorry. That's never going to happen. And still to this day, I have fast forwarded over some parts. I've seen most of it. I've skipped some. And but at the time, the beautiful thing was he just knew, he had connected to what Hannibal Lecter loved. He was playing, we always tell acting students, you can't play a negative. Don't play the negative. Find the positive choices, right? And that's how you find the positive choices in life too, is you find the love. So you explore inside because you are the character. In this experience, your soul's the player, right? And you are the character. And you're the character that your soul came here on earth to be. So what is it that is the love at the root of that character? And then how can you be the most clear representation of that? Rather than playing the negative, rather than focusing on the problem, rather than focusing on what's missing, you focus, when you're an actor playing that character, you focus on the love. And that's what you go about playing.
What a beautiful way to end this amazing conversation. I just love that. Like, I've had tears in my eyes this whole talk, because it is, there's nothing I can say. That's just beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. And I can't thank you enough, Sandra. Can't thank you enough at all.
Oh, bless your heart. I'm going to show everybody my book.
Yes, I was just about to say. And in the description, there'll actually be links to where you can buy it as well. So yeah, please hold it up again.
Okay. All right. Hold it up again.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And the audiobook's coming out soon, the end of next month.
Cool.
So, but it's out in paperback all over the place, and
Beautiful.
ebook version. And so, yeah, we're just growing like crazy.
Oh, I love it. So, yeah, and to find Sandra, and please go and check her out. Like, this conversation has been amazing. In the description, I've actually got the links how you can find her. I will make sure there's links to where you can buy the book as well. Thank you again, Sandra. This conversation has been amazing. And for anyone watching, please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all the amazing stuff that helps me as a small business person. And yeah, my heart's just so full because it's just been so amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Darlene. I love what you're doing so much. Yeah, so do like and subscribe.
Thank you. And wishing everyone following a beautiful day.